Turning 60 changes the way you see life. And that's exactly why today I want to dive straight into 7 things that make no sense after 60. No detours, no warm-ups. If you're past 60, or even getting close, it's time to rethink a few habits that quietly steal your time, energy, and joy. And honestly, the moment you realize how unnecessary some of these things are, life opens up in the best way. Reaching this age gives you a kind of clarity you just don't have when you're younger. You finally start noticing which parts of your life are worth nurturing, and which ones you've been carrying out of habit, obligation, or just because you never question them. So let's talk about these things openly with honesty and a bit of humor, because aging itself isn't the problem. Carrying old habits into a new chapter is. The first thing that stops making sense after 60 is not prioritizing your own happiness. So many of us spent decades putting everyone else first: kids, partners, aging parents, co-workers, even people who barely deserved that kind of space in our lives. And for years, we told ourselves that this is what responsible adults do. But once you hit 60, you start realizing that all that self-sacrifice built a pattern. You got used to being second or third or last. And it becomes so normal that the idea of choosing yourself feels uncomfortable. But here's the truth. This stage of life demands a shift. When you prioritize your own well-being, your peace, your health, your joy, you're not taking anything away from others. You're actually giving them a better version of you. A calmer, healthier, happier you. And that energy affects everyone around you. Think about how much more present and warm you feel when you're not drained or frustrated. That's the version of you the people you love deserve, and you deserve it too. Making yourself a priority isn't selfish anymore. It's overdue. That leads naturally into the second thing that doesn't make sense after 60, saving money for a rainy day, instead of enjoying it now. Many of us spent decades doing the smart, responsible thing. Saving for emergencies, building retirement funds, being cautious. And all of that discipline was important. But once you reach this age, clinging to the same mindset might actually work against you. You're no longer in the stage of life where stockpiling for the distant future makes sense. Instead, this is the time to use your resources intentionally to enjoy the life you worked so hard for. This doesn't mean spending recklessly or throwing caution out the window. It means shifting from collecting money to collecting moments. Experiences that stay with you. Time with people you love. Adventures that make you feel alive. You've probably heard the joke that all the stuff in our homes eventually gets sold for pennies when we're gone. And it's funny because it's true. The memories you invest in stay in your heart. The things you pile up just gather dust. And there's another practical point. Your healthiest, most energetic years are happening now. If you don't use that time to enjoy what you've earned, then when will you? Your spending naturally decreases as you age, and life slows down whether we like it or not. So if you're still fit, still curious, still excited about life, this is the moment to spend with intention. Treat yourself. Travel more. Try new hobbies. Take your family somewhere they'll never forget. Share some of your resources with people you care about while you can still witness their joy. It feels better than waiting for a future version of you that may never arrive. This brings us to the third thing that no longer makes sense. Putting off experiences until later. If you've reached 60, you've probably said, one day, more times than you can count. One day I'll take that trip. One day I'll try that hobby. One day I'll slow down and savor life. But eventually you hit an age where you realize that one day isn't a plan. It's a trap. And later is already here. The danger of delaying the meaningful parts of life is that time moves faster than we expect. Health changes. Circumstances shift. Energy levels aren't infinite. So if you've had dreams sitting on the shelf, now is the time to dust them off and bring them to life. Start choosing experiences over things. They last longer. They shape your identity. They become stories you tell with a smile. And they create bonds with people you love. You don't need grand adventures either. Sometimes the most meaningful experiences are simple ones. A long walk somewhere beautiful, a weekend away, a dinner with someone you haven't seen in years, learning something new just because it sparks joy. And if you want to push yourself further, you can try the idea of anti-goals, deciding what you don't want more of, so you create space for what matters. Maybe it's less time spent on chores, less time worrying, less time doing things out of obligation. Clearing out what drains you makes room for what fills you. Another thing that stops making sense after 60 is trying to impress people who don't matter. This one is liberating. When you're younger, there's this invisible pressure to look successful, accomplished, stylish, put together. A nicer car, a certain salary, a house that shows you're doing well. And the funny thing is that most of that effort is aimed at impressing people who barely notice. By the time you reach 60, you see through the illusion. Nobody is really watching you. Everyone is wrapped up in their own problems and their own insecurities. So trying to keep up appearances becomes exhausting and pointless. It doesn't add joy to your life. It just keeps you chasing standards that were never yours in the first place. Dressing the way you like, living the way you choose, spending your money on what actually matters to you, that's freedom. And it's one of the best gifts that comes with age. Letting go of that need to impress also makes your relationships more genuine. You stop trying to win approval, and instead you focus on connection. You talk to people who matter, and you let go of the rest. Your time becomes too precious for superficial judgments or imaginary scorecards. It's a beautiful shift, and it opens the door to a much more authentic life. The fifth thing that stops making sense is avoiding new technology. A lot of people over 60 start saying things like they're too old to learn something new, or that things were better the old way. And yes, change can feel overwhelming. But refusing to embrace new tools only limits you. Technology isn't here to replace your wisdom or experience, it's here to make life easier and more exciting. Even something as simple as using AI, planning apps, or digital tools for hobbies can make daily life smoother. These tools help you organize your thoughts, plan trips, explore interests, and stay mentally sharp. And when you use them, you don't become less old school, you become more adaptable. You unlock new ways to engage with the world. And surprisingly, you might find that these tools spark your creativity or help you stay connected with younger generations. Learning something new at 60 isn't a chore, it's an act of self-care. It keeps your brain active, flexible, and curious. And that curiosity is what keeps you young much more than any wrinkle cream ever could. Building on that idea of staying mentally alive, we reach another thing that loses all meaning after 60, overcommitting your time to obligations you don't actually enjoy. At this stage of life, time becomes more precious than ever, not because it's running out, but because you finally understand its real value. For years, maybe decades, you probably said yes automatically. Yes to social obligations. Yes to helping people who didn't always appreciate it. Yes to invitations that drained you. Yes to events that felt like chores. And most of those yes came from guilt or habit, not genuine desire. But the truth is, once you reach your 60s, saying yes to everything is the quickest way to burn yourself out. You don't owe anyone endless availability. You don't need to justify your time, your energy, or your boundaries. You're allowed to say no simply because you want your days to be filled with things that bring you joy, comfort, or meaning. You don't need excuses. You don't need long explanations. Protecting your time isn't rude, it's responsible. It's healthy. And it's one of the most empowering shifts you can make. And here's the beauty of it. When you stop overcommitting, the things you do choose become more fulfilling. Instead of rushing from one obligation to another, you make room for the activities and people who genuinely matter to you. Maybe you want more quiet mornings with a cup of tea. Maybe you want long lunches with old friends. Maybe you want afternoons spent reading, gardening, practicing a hobby, or trying something new. Whatever brings you peace and pleasure becomes possible when you stop giving your time away for free. The guilt fades faster than you think. And once you start honoring your own needs, you'll wish you had done it sooner. Now let's talk about the seventh thing that truly makes no sense after 60, holding on to grudges or emotional baggage from the past. We all carry emotional scars, old arguments, broken relationships, moments where we felt betrayed or misunderstood. And for a long time, it's easy to carry those memories like heavy stones in a backpack. But after 60, dragging those stones around just doesn't fit the life you want to live. You reach an age where peace becomes more important than being right. Where inner calm feels better than replaying old hurts. and where forgiveness, whether you offer it to others or to yourself, feels like the most freeing decision you can make. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean pretending things never happened. It means choosing not to let those old moments control your happiness anymore. Some emotional wounds were deep. Some apologies never came. Some people never changed. And some situations will never make sense. But you don't have to carry the weight of them forever. Letting go doesn't erase the past. It simply opens the door to a lighter future. When you stop revisiting old grudges, you make space for better days. Days filled with connection, laughter, softness, and a clearer mind. And you'll notice something unexpected. When you release bitterness, your relationships improve, especially the relationship you have with yourself. You find it easier to be kind, easier to be patient, easier to enjoy the small things. And most importantly, easier to live in the present instead of being stuck in memories that no longer serve you. All of these shifts, prioritizing your happiness, spending intentionally, choosing experiences, dropping the need to impress others, embracing technology, saying no more often, and letting go of emotional baggage, create a version of life that feels lighter and more meaningful. When you're younger, you spend so much time trying to build a future, saving money, building a career, supporting a family, maintaining relationships, working hard, and constantly planning ahead. But after 60, you finally reach the chapter where you get to live the life you spent decades preparing for. And the tragedy is that so many people keep living like they're still in survival mode, still in obligation mode, still following rules that no longer apply. This chapter isn't about proving anything. It's not about catching up. It's not about meeting expectations. It's about choosing what feels right for you. It's about joy, simplicity, connection, curiosity, and freedom. It's about releasing the unnecessary and embracing the meaningful. And it's about deciding that the years ahead, however many there may be, deserve to be filled with intention, not habit. A lot of people say life speeds up after 60, but I don't think that's entirely true. I think life becomes quieter, and in that quiet, you start noticing what really matters. The moments that feel warm, the people who stay, the peace you fought for, the experiences you still want to have, and the parts of yourself you finally feel ready to explore. You're not too old to grow. You're not too old to dream. You're not too old to change. And you're definitely not too old to enjoy life deeply. In fact, you might be more ready now than ever. So as you reflect on these 7 things that no longer make sense, let them guide you, not in a dramatic way, but gently, like a soft nudge toward a better, lighter way of living. You don't have to fix everything overnight. Just start by asking yourself what truly matters to you at this stage. What brings you peace? What brings you joy? What makes your days feel meaningful? And what are you finally ready to leave behind? Let this chapter be the one where you choose yourself unapologetically. Where you say yes to what lights you up and no to what drains you. Where you stop waiting for someday and start creating moments today. Aging isn't about losing time, it's about using the time you have left more wisely, more warmly, and more honestly than ever before. If any of these ideas stirred something in you, take it as a sign, not of age, but of awareness. You've lived long enough to know what matters, and you deserve to live the rest of your life in a way that reflects that wisdom.